What up, my nerd brethren? It is I, Jason from Custom Cans, and this week we have the DT990 Pro X. I assume X is for extreme. The extreme version of the DT990. So basically it's an updated 990 with the new stelar driver. I've had a look at the DT770 Pro X limited edition when they came out, and it was quite a nice thing. You know, they're an easier to drive headphone. Yeah, the stelar driver is 48 ohms, whereas like the most popular 990 is the 250 ohm. Yeah, 250 ohms more of a professional kind of range for plugging into mixers, that kind of stuff. Whereas the 48 ohm one is going to run much more easily off a laptop or straight out of a computer. You wouldn't necessarily need a headphone amp with these, whereas these ones you're going to need an amplifier. But yeah, it'd be really interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initially pull them apart quickly, just to see how they were made, do a little design review, see what changes they've made compared to how they built the old 990s. And then we might have a listen and maybe do a couple of measurements just to see what you're gaining / losing compared to the original one. Yeah, just a very quick design review. If you're looking for a review of the sound, I'm probably not the guy to do it, but I can show you how it's built. So let's have a look. So I've done a previous video on the 770 Pro X limited edition when they came out, which was quite interesting to see, because it was like an updated version of the 770 that they'd fused with the 700 Pro X, so the stelar driver and that kind of thing. So it'd be interesting just to see what they've done with the 990, whether that's the same kind of thing. Yes, but I've got a set of the 770 Pro X limited edition behind me, just in case I need them. Let's get these apart. Right, so standard Beyerdynamic stuff. I think you're going to need a T10 and a T6 to get these apart. So, should we get the 990 out as well, just so we've got something to compare it to. Okay, so when unboxing, obvious thing is the DT990 Pro X detachable cable, which is kind of handy. We've been making the 990 with detachable cable for a number of years, using a mini XLR socket. No idea where Beyerdynamic got the idea, but it's a really good idea having a detachable cable on the 990. So headband, as you can see on the original, on this one, you've got a cutout at the top here, which makes it a bit more comfortable as it goes over the head. So they just pop her on. This is what's really great about the Beyerdynamic 990 and 1990. Super easy to replace the pads. If your head pad starts to wear out, which they will do eventually, get a bit funky, just unpop her. You know, there's no messing around. It's not the prettiest solution, but it just, 2 minutes, it's done. Inside, both got the same spring steel headband. Looks like they've got the same arms. As you can see, they've got slightly updated. They've slightly updated this part here. On the original 990 and 770, I've seen quite a lot of these break, where people have got their arms fully extended and then apply a lot of pressure like that. It can crack here. I will see, because these ones are a little bit broader. Possibly that has fix that. I don't know. We'll have to see. Like only time will tell. So we'll just get these bits off. So T10 to remove these. Again, all these parts you can buy from Beyerdynamic, which is really nice. So if you do break one of those, you can just buy a replacement slider set. So it's not super cheap. I think it's about £20, but it's better than nothing. Yeah. So they just come apart. So inside you've got quite a few ribs and reinforcement, so I'm hoping this will survive, but I think the original ones have as well. Just get those done. Yeah, so there's the difference. So it's kind of similar design. These just got a little bit more area. That might be enough just to stop them from snapping. I don't know. We'll have to see. So those are the sliders that they've changed on them. The actual sliding mechanism, it's one of these nice ones with a little ball detent there and a spring. So yeah, they use the good slider on this one. Now then, these hinges on here, they look very similar to the 1990, but they're not. The 1990 and 1770 ones are aluminium, and this one is plastic. Also the 1990 and 1770 ones have a metal clip on the inside, which you have to remove, whereas these ones just pop out. So it makes dismantling these actually easier than the 1990. So we'll just remove the arm. And then these are the actual hinge pieces again. As I said, these are plastic. They're not all nicely machined like the 1990 ones. The actual ear cup itself, you can see it's got a more curved design. So this was kind of flat here, and then this one's got a more curvy kind of look to it, which is nice. I don't like this, the sharp corners on this. Also the texture, you've got a much rougher texture on this, smoother texture on this. The reason they use a rough texture is because it kind of hides imperfections in the mold, so the molds last longer as they start to break down. You can't really tell because it's got a bit of a texture on it. So a smoother one like that, it's a bit more expensive in the long run to produce, but it looks a bit nicer. And then again, you've got the socket underneath there, so you've got a recessed 3-pin mini XLR. Just pull the pads off, they just come off like that, and they look very similar. I think they're probably the same pads. Yeah, they look like the 990 pads. They've got the same foam. Beyerdynamic have different coloured foams inside for different pads, and these look the same. So it's probably the same ear pads that they're using on both of them. All right. Now then, one thing I can see here, obviously, is on the older ones, you've just got a foam disc. This has got one of these 2-layer foam discs, which reduces the treble a bit more. So on the 770 Pro X limited edition that I had, it had one of these, and it sounded more like the 770. Whereas this one, I suspect it's going to smooth off that treble peak that you get on the 990s by putting this pad in front. I'm going to have to get in one of the new 770s that isn't limited edition, because I've heard that they've got this rather than that. So they might have updated the limit from the limited edition to the full release version, which is quite interesting. Yeah, get one of those. Yeah, I have to get one of those in to have a look at. Just another couple hundred quid. Damn. Right, I'm just going to pop out the old retaining ring. Okay, so retaining ring off. Filter out. Alright, so as you can see on the new Stelar 45 driver, the actual diaphragm is kind of more open to the air. On this one, you've got a bit of tissue paper over the diaphragm there. There we go. So we got the two drivers, and I think the old driver's bigger. I think, from what I remember. Don't know. Let's have a look. Oh no, it's about the same. Yeah. So the driver's the same size. I don't know if you can see here, but the magnet is a bit chunkier on the Stelar driver than it is on the older driver there. But what I've noticed as soon as I open this up is like, what are you doing, Beyerdynamic? What are you doing? They've cheaped out. I'm going to have to get the 770 Pro X out, aren't I? Right, okay, hold on. Right, so this is the limited edition 770 Pro X, and I praised it greatly for using the Stelar drivers the same way they did on the 700. Where, yeah, you can see, so here you got just the normal pad under there. What you do with these ones, do that, and it's socketed in. So you've got a connector here, which fits into a socket on the inside there. So you can remove this without desoldering, which is really nice. So if we've got a customer who's like, oh, I've blown a driver, we can just say, cool, we'll send you out a driver. No need to solder it in. It just clips in, which is cool and repairable. Whereas here, what the flibbity flubbity flew? They've got a really they've jankily soldered on the wires to the connector and then onto the socket there. And it's not even like they hadn't, like they've definitely cheaped out, because inside here, you've got little socket here, and you've got a moulding in the bottom which that socket clips into. And this one again has got the moulding in there for the socket to clip into, but they've not bothered putting the socket in. They've just soldered it directly to the driver, thus making it less repairable. So they've done all the work of designing it nicely, and then gone, we could save like £1 on each one if we just janked it up and made it worse. So I don't know how I feel about that, because Admittedly, like a 990, these ones, it's all soldered in. You know, it's not really been a problem. It's just when you've made a step forward and made things better, and then make it worse again. Why would you do that? It's like, it's not going to cost them that much. I don't know, a socket, I would have thought in the volumes that they're buying them, you know, it's going to be in the pence range. You know, it's probably going to be, it's definitely going to be less than £1 worth of work to solder this in and have it socket, because you've still got the same number of solder joints. You've just got to solder these wires to the socket, so it's really only the cost of the socket that they've saved, which is going to be a few pence, but they've made the whole design worse. Normally I've 100% got Beyerdynamics back. They do things, and it is still very repairable, don't get me wrong. I'm just a bit shocked that they've done that to the 990 Pro X. And again, now I'm going to have to get the 770 Pro X in, the non-limited edition one, and see if they've done the same on that, whether they've just cheaped out and taken the socket out of there to make it not socketed. So that was interesting. So what else have we got in here? So it's pretty standard 3-pin socket. Again, probably should have chosen a 4-pin so you could go balanced, but I understand the 3-pin because it's more kind of an industry standard. But if you wanted a balanced set of these, you could contact us. We can make you a balanced set. That's not a problem. We can just swap out that socket and rewire it internally. Much like, wow, it's all very interesting. So on the original 990, you can see you've got this felt pad in here, which will absorb some of the sound bouncing around. They're kind of a semi-open. You can see it's actually only this circle in the center that's open. So on the new 990 Pro X, it's more open. You've still got a lot of it blocked off, but you've got more of it open. You've got this clear plastic here. But yeah, you've got more open area. You've got stays on the back here, which press against the back of the driver to give it more rigidity, which should help with the low bass notes. And then it looks like this clear plastic insert comes out. But that's interesting. So now you've lost the damping on the inside, but you've gained a bit more openness. Who knows what difference that's going to make? I'm sure they've had a look at that and figured it all out. But yes, that was more different than I imagined it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like the limited edition ones inside, but they've changed it. And also, look, the driver doesn't have this on the back. Again, it will have been a tuning thing, but it's quite interesting because the 700 and 900, the ones that originally had the stelar driver, did have some kind of tune thing on the back there for tuning, and so did the 770 Pro X. We developed our own one where it was more open, and then they've done away with it on this one. So they've taken this part off. Again, it'll be due to tuning. It might make it sound better without that. They might have discovered that. But yeah, so they've got rid of that part. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah, anyway, a lot more design changes than I imagined there would be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put these back together now, and then we'll have a listen, compare the two. But yeah, so far they've done interesting things, but they've definitely tried to save some money. Tried to save some money on the design of these. So it makes me think that they haven't had as much love as they could have done. I've had a quick listen and they sound pretty good. It sounds quite interesting. I was a little bit jaded after seeing that they'd left out the socket in there. So I was worried that might count against them. But no, as soon as I put them on, I thought, these sound pretty good. Yeah, they're quite a nice studio headphone, pretty flat. They've still got, a little bit of something going on in the treble. So they've got a bit more, so these are very bright, always have been. These ones I think are a bit brighter than the 900 Pro X, so they're sort of somewhere in between the 990 and the 900 Pro X in the kind of treble area. But the rest of it seems nice and flat. So let's have a look at some graphs. I'll just take some measurements and then we'll kind of see where we're at. It's a bit easier than me just describing it. We can have a look at the graphs on screen. So give me a moment, I'll just measure those. Allow me to interrupt you for a moment to persuade you to like and or subscribe and or leave a comment. All hail the algorithm. And so here is the graph, the new 990 Pro X. As you can see, pretty flat. It's kind of what you want, but that is very flat, right up until about 4K. You've got a nice straight line, which is kind of what you want for a studio headphone, so you can everything's at the same level, which is good. One thing that's interesting, on the 900 and the 700 Pro X, they had a massive dip around 4K where there was some cancellation. If you check out one of our other videos, we managed to retune them to get rid of that and get rid of some of the other lumps and bumps. And it looks like Beyerdynamic have now fixed that on the 990 Pro X, so it'd be interesting to get the new 770 Pro X and see if they've done something similar on that. You have got quite a big peak around 4.5K in the treble, which I would like to get rid of. And what's interesting, just from a personal point of view, they've got a dip just below 8K. So you've got the 8K peak, which Beyerdynamic are known for, but then you've got a little dip just before that. And we found that when we were retuning the 700, but we managed to find a little foam insert that went in and smoothed that out. So I think there's definitely a little bit of room left on the table for this. I think you could get rid of some of these peaks and troughs a little bit in the treble. Possibly. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that. But yeah, overall it's a little bit up and downy in the treble, but that's how a lot of headphones are. But I think there's a couple of those that could be smoothed out a little bit with a little bit more tweaking. So let's compare it to some other headphones to give you an idea. So let's have a look at the 900, which is the predecessor of this. So if I get the Pro X up, so there you can see again, pretty flat, which is what I liked about the 900. Possibly even flatter because you haven't got that dip at about, it doesn't start to drop down at 2K, but the 900 has got that big old dip at 4K, which they've managed to get rid of on this one. Also, the 900 doesn't have the same kind of treble profile, so it doesn't have quite as high a peak at 8K, which is what some people like for the studio thing, bringing out that detail. So it's a bit more smoothed off in the treble, the 900. The 990 Pro X is definitely a lot more peaky in the treble, so you've got that peak at 5K, peak at 8K, and then another peak at sort of 10 or 12K. So yeah, a bit peakier, a bit less smoothed off in the treble than the 900. Now if we get up the original 990, boom. So here you can see it's not as flat. You've got a bit more bass on the 990, and the treble is up there. Got some treble going on. Yeah, so they're quite a bright headphone, which is why people like them. I think that all that detail up in the high end really shows up problems with your mix and stuff. But yeah, overall they're not as flat as the new ones. And then if we have a look at our modified 990s, so a pair of 990s with our V3 tuning kit in, which you can buy separately. So if you've already got some 990s, you can fit this. And what that does is, as you can see, it smooths off most of the graph. You've got a bit of a tilt going up towards the bass, which is what a lot of people like from a headphone, just because you need a bit more bass from a headphone than you do from a speaker. And then again, the treble isn't quite as peaky as the original 990, but it's definitely a lot smoother than it up. You haven't got quite as many sharp peaks and dips as you have on the Pro X one, but what we're missing is we've got a bit more, so you can see there's a bit more of a scoop out around kind of 2K to 4K, got a bit more of a scoop out with so it's more of a kind of U-shaped tune on the modified 990 Pro X than the 9. Oh my god. Oh god, they're all so similar. Yeah, a bit more of a scoop on our V3 modified 990s than it is on the 990 Pro X. But yeah, you can see we've definitely smoothed off a lot of the lumps and bumps that you've got on the original 990. So if you've got a 990, worth buying one of our kits just to kind of smooth it out and make it sound a bit more, make it sound a bit flatter, better. Yeah, so overall, it's got its place. Definitely, I think, the flat bass and mid-range is it's good on that. They've got rid of the 4K dip, which the other Pro X ones had. Treble's a little bit spiky. But yeah, overall there's definitely a place for it. But if you've already got some 990s, I know I'm biased because we make them, but I'd probably buy one of our tuning kits just to tune that rather than forking out 200 quid on a new one. But especially because they haven't got the sockets in them. That was one of the selling points, is that it was socketed and more user serviceable. But because they've just now bodged it by soldering it directly to the socket, you're not gaining there. So down the sub bass flatter on the 990s. If that's important to you, because the original 990s start to roll. They gradually roll off. It's not like a huge roll off, but there's a gradual roll off around 40 hertz. They start to roll off, whereas the Pro X ones with the Stelar driver, they're flat down to 20. So yeah, so if that's important to you, obviously it's probably worth paying the extra to get these. But yeah, if you've already got some 990s and you fancy just tweaking the sound a bit, I'd probably buy one of our mod kits. It's less than £20 from what I remember. Sorry, I should know the prices of our own stuff, but it's less than £20, and it takes about 20 minutes to fit. It's not one of the easiest kits to fit, and then it'll retune it. So that's my. There you go. Got to do a review and a little bit of a sales pitch. Buy our stuff. Supports this stuff. Support us tuning things and making them better. I guess. Tell me what you think. Can you forgive them for cheaping out and removing the socket? What? Why have you? You've done all the design work. It's not like they couldn't fit it in. There's actually the stays in there to put it in. All they've done is save 10-15p from the socket and made the headphones deliberately worse. You know, either they're trying to not compete with like the 1990s and the 900 Pro X because they're a little bit more expensive. Possibly they've artificially made them worse so that they're not as good as the more expensive ones. But come on, man. No need for that. Just you were so close. You were so close. But anyway, let me know what you think. It'd be lovely if you could leave a comment. I don't have any friends. The only people I speak to are the people in the comments on YouTube videos. Just comment down below. And obviously, I've, as always, I kind of enjoy hanging out with you guys, and I will attempt to reply to all the comments. And if you could take the time, if you're not already subscribed, just hit subscribe. I know. And if you're scared of commitment, you're like, I don't feel I can fully commit to a subscribe right here. Next time your mum's using the computer, she's logged in, just subscribe her instead. It's fine. It all counts. It all counts. It's all good. Right, cool. But I need those subscribers. That's what I need. I need to up those subscribers. Right. Let me get back on with it.